Hello again everyone, and welcome back to another Victoria 3 video. My name is Derail, and today I'm going to be going over patch 1.7.2, which I'm going to be honest, changes quite a bit more than I originally thought something like this would. And specifically, this is with regard to the principles. Certain principles have gotten pretty major changes. Advanced research, for one, is way different than it was previously. Same thing with colonial offices. There's also some changes with technology I want to go over. So let's launch right into this. Starting off over in the tech tree for something I've been asking for quite a while now, if you go to colonization, you get minus 10% infamy generation against unrecognized powers, which is pretty nice. And then at civilizing mission, you get another 25% infamy generation reduction against unrecognized powers yet again. This gives you 35% off the bat, but if you go over to your power block and you add the principal colonial offices, you can see at tier 3, it now provides colonial affairs with minus 5% infamy generation against unrecognized powers per tier. This also works a little bit differently than it did before. You get that institution size change speed for colonial affairs, the bureaucracy cost reduction, and it also disallows no colonial affairs on all block members. And you can also impose your colonization law on your block members, which is also pretty interesting. I think this is a solid buff to something like colonial offices. This means you can get a total of 60% infamy generation reduction against unrecognized powers, which is going to make conquering a lot of areas that previously people just didn't, like in Africa, for example, or in Southeast Asia. Once again, things like that are going to be way easier, and even if you're playing as Britain or Russia, for the great game over here, things can get a little bit more spicy, which I very much am a fan of. That wasn't the only principle that got changed at all, though. Police coordination also got some changes. It disallows no police on all block members, and you can also impose that same policing law. I think this is alright, and now it also has a scaling modifier for size change speed and bureaucracy costs, so keep that in mind. It goes from plus 25% and minus 10% to plus 40% and minus 25%, and then that minus and plus 50% at tier 3. And then finally, there was also a change to advanced research, disallowing no schools. You can impose your education system law on your block members, and at tier 1 you get plus 5% technology spread, which is alright. Then at tier 2 you get that minus 5% ahead of time penalty. Obviously this scales with education, so it goes all the way up to 25% at tier 5. And then finally you get plus 15 maximum innovation investment, which, if I can do math, gives education 75 total maximum innovation investment at tier 5. This is a solid buff to advanced research. I think a lot of people are going to run with something like this now. But I think if you're also going to play a nation that wants to blob out like crazy, you can do so way easier with colonial offices. There were also a bunch of other notable changes. For example, the Meiji restoration is a little bit easier now. It just requires keeping the shogunate out of power for 10 years, I believe, and making sure legitimacy is above 50, although I could be wrong. If I'm wrong about that, please correct me in the comments below. For the Ottomans, getting the Tanzimat reforms are a little bit easier. They didn't really change too much about them, but they do give you 20 to 30 more years to do them, which makes it a little bit easier from that perspective. They made France's AI a little bit less aggressive in terms of the natural borders of France. There have been more than a few games where once they get natural borders, they just start death warring on Belgium and on Prussia. Doesn't even matter if they lose a bunch of other land, they'll just completely go in, and it doesn't really make too much logical sense. In terms of other good changes, there were a few big things they did. For example, Prussia is way less likely to go after land when it comes to the unification war with Austria. This is just a general AI change. They also made a change to power blocks. Unrecognized major powers can now have them, but at the cost of a 90% leverage reduction when compared to a non-unrecognized power. So if you're playing as an unrecognized power, you can do it. You can get mandates now, which is really nice. But at the same time, you do have that reduction, which is not the craziest thing in the world. There were also a bunch of other general AI improvements, a bunch of great changes. I imagine we're going to see more in 1.7.3 next week, which I imagine is going to happen. I'm not 100% certain about that. And tomorrow I'll be making another video covering the dev diary. There is a lot to go over, all things considered, especially since they're going to be talking about what the future of Victoria 3 looks like post Sphere of Influence, which I hope they, double down and do a lot more for the game, because I'm going to be honest, this update is just so solid in so many ways. It's done a lot to make the game a lot more vibrant, a lot more fun, and I hope they continue, on that path. possibly with something like a region pack, maybe for, the area in the Balkans. Maybe you could do one for Southeast Asia. There's other stuff they can do as well, of course. I'm really trusting of Paradox at the minute. They had a banger update in the form of Sphere of Influence, and I really hope they keep up that good momentum. Overall though, thank you so much for watching this video till the end. If you enjoyed, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time, everyone. Goodbye.